Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
Signed by 990 Calgarians, calling upon the government of Alberta to immediately stop eliminating Alberta Liquor Control Board jobs in Calgary by transferring the work to the City of St. Albert.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to give oral notice that tomorrow I will move that the report of the Special Committee appointed March 14, 1991, pursuant to Standing Order 49, be now received and concurred in, and that the committees recommended therein be hereby appointed.
Thank you.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 234, the Freedom of Information and Personal Privacy Act. This bill has been introduced on previous occasions by Grant Notley and the current leader of the opposition. It calls upon the government to provide access for information under the control of the government and to protect the privacy of individuals with respect to private information or records held by the government.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn has moved first reading to Bill 234, Freedom of Information and Personal Privacy Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill 234, Freedom of Information and Personal Privacy Act, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mr. Pashak, is now read a first time.
Minister Public Works Supply and Services.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 22, the Wild Rose Foundation Amendment Act 1991. This being a money bill, His Honor, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of this bill, recommends the same to the Assembly. This bill, Mr. Speaker, will enhance, promote, and foster the role of volunteerism and the volunteer in the province of Alberta.
The Honourable Minister of Public Works Supply and Services has moved first reading to Bill 22, Wild Rose Foundation Amendment Act 1991. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 22, Wild Rose Foundation Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honourable Mr. Kowalski, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the annual report to the Department of Consumer and Corporate Affairs for the year ending March 31st, 1990, and as well the reports of the Securities Commission for the years ending March 31st, 1989, and for the report year ending March 31st, 1990.
Provincial Treasurer.
Speaker, I'm pleased to table the March 31st, 1990 report of the Land Purchases Fund and as well the annual reports for the Department of Treasury, March 31st, 1990.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table a report of the Official Opposition Leaders Task Force on Children and Youth dealing with poverty.
Minister of Public Works Supply and Services, followed by Culture Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table today the annual report 1990-91 of the Association of Professional Engineers, Geologists, and Geophysicists of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, I'm tabling the 1989-1990 annual report for the Alberta Foundation for the Literary Arts.
Member for Grand Prairie.
Mr. Speaker, I'm tabling the annual report for the Northern Alberta Development Council for the year 1989-1990.
Thank you. Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
I rise to table 4 copies of a resolution passed by the Canadian Association of Journalists requesting that the Alberta government enact legislation for freedom of information.
Introduction of special guests.
Member for Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly here 10 students from Macomb Composite High School. They're accompanied today by 2 teachers, Edson Phipps and Brenda Boyd. They're seated in the members' gallery, Mr. Speaker, and I ask them now to rise and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Kingsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to the Assembly 14 students from the English as a Second Language class at the Alberta Vocational Centre, Winifred Stewart campus in my riding. They're accompanied by their teacher, Yuri Dramarecki. I would request that they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Honorable members, today marks the 16th anniversary for 6 members of this House, members who were first elected March 26, 1975. Cypress Radcliffe, Lethbridge West, Pincher Creek, Crow's Nest, Tabor Warner, Lethbridge East, Medicine Hat. Let's welcome all those members again.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, the CAUSE report, as we know, has just been issued, and I want to first of all congratulate the task force members for producing a fine piece of work and for laying out firm suggestions for what needs to be done to address the serious problem facing natives in our justice system now and in the future. But Mr. Speaker, I think that it is undebatable that 338 recommendations speak volumes about how deeply this government has failed Alberta natives in the past. Mr. Speaker, from one scathing indictment of this government to another, Mr. Speaker. Now, my question is to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. Will the Premier admit now that the sheer number, 338, of recommendations in this report is a clear message that his government has utterly failed natives in our province?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition obviously hasn't read the report. That's right. Because that is not the way the Commissioner has presented his report at all. Also, Mr. Speaker, I should just remind the Leader of the Opposition that this is a commission that was set up by the government. Our desire to see if the fairness in the justice system for Native and Métis people. My colleague, the Attorney General, worked to establish the terms of reference, and he may well want to augment my comments. But the number of recommendations are a help and will be gone into in detail by the government, and we appreciate the efforts of the Commissioner and the staff who worked with him.
Speaker, the Premier can interpret it however he wants, but I think most people in Alberta know how to look at it. Mr. Speaker, the fact facing problems with natives are not merely cultural, they are economic, and that natives in jail is a symptom, Mr. Speaker, with chronic and deep poverty, the underlying cause. Mr. Speaker, our task force found an appalling amount of child poverty in this province. 1 out of 6 children live in poverty in Alberta, and according to a Senate Standing Committee, the figure is 1 out of 2. 1 out of 2 for Native children, Mr. Speaker. Clearly some initiatives are needed, not just reports. And my question to the Premier is this: what is the Premier prepared to do for poor kids in this province, many of them who are Native, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, in response to the Leader of the Opposition, this government has done yeoman service with the natives. As the Premier just said, in these specific reports,
whether it's policing or whether it's the justice system broadly, we worked with the Indian community in putting the terms of reference, and in fact they were participants in these particular reports where we worked with them to look to see how we might work together to enhance the justice system in its broad spectrum, not just the court system, but policing and its interrelationship with various agencies that work with natives. And I think also I could take this time to remind the Honourable Leader of the Opposition of the many, many advances that we've made in addressing the needs of the natives, in ensuring they have land base, ensuring that they have money so that they can work with their infrastructure and to form a model of self-determination so that they can stand on their own feet and not be dependent on government and be participants within Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, you wouldn't have had to have a report with 338 recommendations if you were doing as well as you thought. That's the point, Mr. Speaker. And I was asking, Mr. Speaker, specifically about poverty. It's one of the major causes for people ending up in jail. 1 in 2 are Native people. And I want to ask the Premier to come back, who is, I suppose, the leader of this government, Mr. Speaker. Doesn't the Premier realize that his approach in dealing with the poor is short-sighted both economically and socially, because you're going to pay money in the future to build more jails, to build more in welfare, to have more social breakdown. Don't you realize your policies are doing that?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition surely must know that one of the ways in which you help poor people the most is to allow them to have a job. And this government over the last 5 years has got the best record of providing jobs to the people of Alberta of any province in Canada. Mr. Speaker, there's no question that there will always be people who fall below the poverty level, and that the government helps in every way they can, either in our social services, in our training and retraining, in order that they can participate in the full opportunities that are available within this province, in our very special selective tax system, where some 500,000 Albertans had their taxes either canceled totally or dropped. So, and Mr. Speaker, of course, we have the situation where we have worked out an absolutely historic opportunity with the Métis people, unmatched anywhere in Canada, where they are now able to have land, to have a transition period where they are able to, with pride and dignity, build their communities and fully participate in the opportunities in this province as well. We have signed settlements with native bands in our province. We've worked to make sure that they fully become a part of the tremendous future of this province, and we're going to continue to do it. It's not perfect, but we're going to keep working at it and try to do it.
Speaker, growing poverty, Premier refuses to admit it. That's the reality, Mr. Speaker, and that's what's happening in this province for many people. Now, but Mr. Speaker, to move from there over to the Treasurer, Mr. Speaker, as I pointed out yesterday, the government continues to ignore the Auditor General and refuses to deal with our province's $9 billion unfunded pension liability. Mr. Speaker, this is growing at over $500 million a year. It's a financial time bomb for this province, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the federal government is dealing with this problem, and Ontario is dealing with this problem. Mr. Speaker, we estimate that reducing the financial time bomb over a 40-year period, as Ontario is doing, would require an expenditure of some $400 million a year, Mr. Speaker. That's how serious it is. My question to the Treasurer, will the Treasurer admit that the real reason this government refuses to deal responsibly with this problem is because he knows full well that the required spending would make an absolute mockery of his so-called balanced budget?
Mr. Speaker, I won't comment on the so-called balanced budget. There'll be adequate time to look at that on April the 4th, Mr. Speaker, and we will not be anticipating the results of the budget. With respect to the very important concern of pension reform and the pension liability which the member refers to, which in fact was covered by the Auditor General, and which, as I said yesterday, was fully disclosed by this government in the public accounts, which we filed on Thursday, it is a matter of record that the unfunded liability, while it has increased, is offset to some extent by assets which total about $3.5 to $4 billion, so that the total liability is not as the member from Norwood, or for that matter the chirper, reports on, Mr. Speaker. What we will do, Mr. Speaker, as I have said before, is together with other colleagues in caucus and cabinet, I will make some proposals in the near term which will deal in a broad way with the kinds of pension changes that are necessary, not only in response to the liability side, but also in response to the changing needs of pension in this contemporary society.
Well, we've been hearing this for a long period of time, that we're going to deal with it, Mr. Speaker. But I believe my question to the Treasurer is this: they're so interested in misleading the public about a balanced budget, they're letting a serious problem get worse. That's right. And my question to the Treasurer is simply this: doesn't the Treasurer realize that every year that nothing is done about the unfunded pension liability, it will cost another $40 million?
Great.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think anyone would doubt that this government is aware of the financial implications of the pension obligations, which this government takes a serious responsibility to ensure that those people now in the plans, those people now receiving benefits, in fact have adequate protection for their retirement income. And that has been our commitment, and that is what we have done, and I think I have referred to the policy and confirmed that policy repeatedly over the past year. It is true that some parts of the pension liabilities, in fact, have incurred as a result of the generosity of this government in providing COLA adjustments, cost of living adjustments, to all those people receiving pension benefits. That was not paid for by the people in the plan at the time, and therefore there is obviously an increase in the unfunded liability. What I can say, Mr. Speaker, is we'll continue to meet our commitment to those pensioners. Their payments are secure, and let me underscore that. Their payments are secure because some of the comments from Norwood and others tends to unsettle those people receiving pension benefits. And we will bring forward a comprehensive review of the pension legislation, as I said, in the near term. And in that, we will deal with all the consequences and changes that are necessary.
Supplementary, final.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that we do not have adequate controls and knowledge about our spending, Mr. Speaker. Now, yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the Premier bragged about how proud he was that his government followed parliamentary tradition and appointed official opposition chair of the Public's Account. He also stated in one quote, the Public's Account Committee can go into every possible thing that the government does financially. End of quote.
What he said.
Mr. Speaker, as a former chair, I find that public accounts was hopeless. And
Honourable member, let's let honourable member, you're now up to almost 45 seconds. Let's have the question, please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I didn't know we timed it. Good timing. My question is to the chair of Public Accounts. Is it true that the Public Accounts Committee can go into every possible thing that the government does financially?
Mr. Speaker, I have a somewhat different perspective on this question than the Premier has. And I would like to have the opportunity, as the Premier suggested, to look into every aspect of government spending. But as a matter of fact, the committee is limited by decisions that are made by a majority of its members. So in fact, we're only able in a given year to look at approximately 6 or 7 of the 24 departments, and certainly we're not able to look into the affairs of Crown-controlled corporations, for example. So, Mr. Speaker, that's why I've introduced a bill that would call for enhanced powers for Public Accounts Committees.
Evans and Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, that was a neat trick. I think that's called self-serving evidence.
Feel free, Lawrence. Ask me a question.
Mr. Speaker, not for you. Mr. Speaker, in 1978, the same government established the Kirby Commission to look at, amongst other things, the relationship of the Native community with the legal system. A number of excellent recommendations were made. Many of those recommendations are very similar to the recommendations that are set out in the Causey Commission or task force. Mr. Speaker, the sad part is that in 12 years, we have seen little or no improvement for the plight of the natives in our province. Government has failed to deal with this most serious of areas. My first question to the minister responsible for Native Affairs is this. Given that this is now the second time round, Mr. Minister, and given that the government failed for 12 years to deal with the problems of natives, what, Mr. Minister, will the government do this time to assure success and not simply repeat failure?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe it's correct nor is it fair if the facts are known to indicate that nothing was done on the Kirby Commission. The number of natives, the percentage and proportionate to from the time Kirby was studied or tabled, and at the time we started the Causey report, there has been a significant reduction in the number of incarcerated natives in this province. So to presume that nothing has happened is entirely incorrect. We have a great report now from Mr. Justice Causey put together with a group of very prominent, committed people, and in there is 338 recommendations which will be dealt with by the government. And I can say that well over 100 of those recommendations are already being acted upon, Mr. Speaker, and have been for the past 2 years. So what we're seeing in those recommendations is a repeat on that which we are already doing. We will consult closely with the natives. We will consult very closely with the natives over the next couple of months to devise an appropriate implementation plan, and we will implement that plan. But it will be implemented in complete agreement with the natives of this province, as we are long past the time when the non-native community, or the white community, if you will, are going to impose upon the native community those solutions what the whites think best.
Mr. Speaker, if 3 or 4% improvement is the minister's idea of improvement, then we've got many decades to look forward to see improvement that should be the kind of improvement that we need for the native community. My second question is to the minister responsible for legal aid. Mr. Speaker, with one stroke of the pen. No pen? Mr. Speaker, I know you don't, but I know the minister does.
Honourable member, that's enough. Take your place. Ministers are entitled to be addressed by their proper designation in the House. That's all that this exchange is about. So let's get on with it.
Mr. Speaker, I direct this question to the Attorney General, the Honourable Attorney General. With one stroke of the pen, he can add assistance to the legal aid program to give the kind of help that the Causey report and the Kirby report talk about. I think, Mr. Speaker, that this could ensure that natives wouldn't be put into jails today or tomorrow or the day after. Will the minister give that commitment, that extra funding will be given to legal aid to give?
Thank you, honourable member. You've taken too long.
Mr. Speaker, the money that is spent through legal aid is through an appropriation of this Assembly, and the Honourable Treasurer has indicated that on April the 4th that we will have the budget tabled before the Assembly, and at that time I would be delighted to discuss my particular elements with the leader of the Liberal Party. We have had undergoing a dialogue with the Law Society, who is a partner in the legal aid system in Alberta, to try and deliver a better system so that people who are in need get assistance and those who aren't in need do, and to augment not only criminal legal aid but civil legal aid. And I'd be delighted to have the Indian community or the Native community that requires that help to get that help.
Mr. Speaker, given that the Premier has been talking about drug abuse for 2 years now, and I think Premier has forgotten what it is that has to be done in this area, what specifics, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Premier, will be brought forward to deal with this most chronic and this most sad of issues affecting and afflicting the Indian community, the Native community?
Well,
Mr. Speaker, it's, I guess it's not a surprise, but the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party has already forgotten what's in the throne speech. And in that throne speech, we talk about the ADAC, one of the most respected organizations in North America in dealing with alcohol and drug abuse, the Family Life and Drug Abuse Commission, which is a new initiative, some $200 million committed in this area of drug abuse and assisting people with the problems. Mr. Speaker, we also, of course, will treat our Native people with respect and with dignity. We will help them with education and health care and social services. And we will provide opportunities within our province, and this is the key. We will provide opportunities for people to participate with future growth in the province. And they can do it because they are responsible and they're prepared to stand on their feet and with opportunities be able to grow within this province. We won't come up with some harebrained scheme of imposing a quota in the legislature where people will be pushed into the legislature as the Liberals are proposing. We will let them get voted in as our members are and are proud, solid members of this legislature. Calgary Fish Creek, then Calgary Mountain View.
And their PC also. Mr. Speaker, a number of my constituents have expressed concerns about such major projects as the Diashawa Mill and the bi-provincial upgrader. But these are not environmental concerns, Mr. Speaker, but rather they are concerns that the economic benefits associated with engineering, construction, and manufacturing services are flowing beyond Alberta's borders and offshore. And I'm wondering, can the Minister of Economic Development clarify to what extent such benefits are in fact flowing to Alberta-based firms?
Read that out. Mr. Speaker, it is because of the competitive nature of the Alberta companies that they have been so successful in bidding on the billions of dollars worth of projects that are presently taking place within the province of Alberta. It's of note, too, that we as a government are committed to working hand in hand with Alberta industry and making sure that there is a strong Alberta content on the projects that are taking place. Diashawa is a fine example of that, whereby in excess of 57% of their project costs were taken up by Alberta companies. The benefits are spread on a province-wide basis. It benefits rural Albertans, it benefits Calgary, and it benefits Edmonton. And we're delighted that it has benefited such a cross-section of the Alberta population.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering if the Minister of Economic Development can make the very same Alberta content assurances for the ALPAC project and other major projects that are now on the drawing boards.
Well, certainly, Mr. Mr. Speaker, it is because we can make that commitment that we are presently enjoying the strongest economy of any province in Canada. And it is because this diversification has been spearheaded by our Premier that we continue to enjoy that positive growth. I'm happy to leave the honourable member with the assurance that LPAC, we will see the same circumstances develop. In fact, we have a procurement policy taking place right now whereby there will be a seminar for Alberta companies, those that are interested in taking advantage of some of the construction and the other service sector involvements. We are going to have a procurement seminar for them so that they can take advantage of the Alberta Pacific project itself.
Calgary Mountain View, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The CAUSE Task Force report took nearly 80 pages, Mr. Speaker, to point out that since 1967, there have been 24 major reports on Aboriginal people in the criminal justice system in this country. Counting the recommendations made in the two reports tabled yesterday, there are well over 1,000 recommendations made in those 24 reports, few of which have been acted upon. I'd like to ask the Premier if he would assure us today that his government will implement the recommendation of the CAUSE Task Force to immediately establish a task force monitoring committee which would report to the Assembly in order to ensure that the many excellent recommendations in these reports are acted upon instead of sitting on a shelf gathering dust.
Mr. Speaker, to some extent this has been discussed already in the House. The Honourable Solicitor General is responsible for the CAUSE report. I'd ask him to respond to the Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, fully 10 days, 1 week before the report was tabled in the House on the basis of a draft report received within the department, which I did not see but my departmental people did, there was at that time 7 full days before tabling the implementation and bringing together of a monitoring committee, which we will continue to put together in conjunction with consultations of the Native Society of this province to do precisely as the report indicates, but in all probability we will not be reporting directly to the legislature, but through myself to the House.
Mr. Speaker, the CAUSE Task Force saw a need for a permanent Aboriginal Justice Commission and to create a new position called an Aboriginal Advocate. They wanted this commission to report directly to the legislature, not through an individual minister, as the Solicitor General has indicated he's going to set up. The Rolfe report also suggests a commission with an even broader mandate, perhaps similar to the Office of the Indian Commissioner in Ontario. I'd like to ask the Premier, would he commit his government to establish not just a short-term ad hoc monitoring and implementation committee, but will he opt for the Aboriginal Commission called for by both the CAUSE and the Rolfe reports, and which would report to this legislature?
Good idea.
Mr. Speaker, it's the intention of this monitoring committee and my department, together with people in the Attorney General's department, together with the natives of this, the native population of this province, to determine which of those recommendations will be acted upon and to what extent they will in fact be acted upon. It is not a decision that will be made within my department alone. Northern government will be made in consultation with the natives and Métis of this province.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the Minister of Education, Mr. Speaker. There's one thing, the thread that underlies the Rolfe and CAUSE reports, Mr. Speaker. It's the underlying thread that the non-Aboriginal cultures just does not understand enough about Native culture. We're not sensitized enough to it. Survey, Mr. Speaker, of some of the schools has indicated to me that there's some knowledge imparted on Native culture in grade 4 and sometimes maybe one other time in their 12 years. Would the minister inform his curriculum committee, or could he undertake to tell the House here that he will inform his curriculum committee to at least maybe triple the number of hours in those 12 years that we are now studying Aboriginal culture for the school children of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member makes a very good point in that the education system has an important role in fostering awareness and understanding of natives by other Albertans, and vice versa. And I'm very proud, Mr. Speaker, of the efforts of the Department of Education, indeed of all Native people in the province, in preparing a number of curriculum materials, including a number of books as part of the Native Education Project. So I think we're headed in the right direction, but I appreciate the input by the honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the minister seems to be well-intended, but this is really a non-political issue, and I hope he will really get out and check it and push it a little harder. Second question, Mr. Speaker, is to do with the funding of Native students that come back into our public school system. Mr. Speaker, presently, if any student is 19 or over, they are not included in the foundation plan. Grants come from the provincial government. And since the Native population, students are quite often 55 to 65% of the students over 19 in our system are Natives, yet they're not being funded. Would the Minister of Education look at the foundation plan to make some effort to see if we can fund educating Aboriginal older students that come back into the public school system?
Mr. Speaker, the public school system is home primarily to those students between the ages of 5 and 19 years old as of September 1. And we find, Mr. Speaker, that if they are in the education system and they are 19 years of age on September 1 of a given year, then they receive full funding as non-treaty Indians, as students in our school. If they are beyond that age, Mr. Speaker, we are finding that they are not likely to attend a public school and instead are finding their education at the likes of the Alberta vocational colleges or other colleges like that around the province.
Lesser Slave Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I'd like to set the record straight. I think a very important point relative to what Edmonton Norwood has stated, that we Native people are not a problem. Yes, we have problems, but we certainly are not a problem. Concerned. However, it is interesting to note that the only 3 individuals of Native descent are on this side of the House. To the Solicitor General. To the Solicitor General. Can the Minister ensure that this Assembly won't have another study to study the studies of the studies that have occurred for years, as is being suggested from people on the other side?
Yeah, those two, right, yeah, right. When we have completed implementation of 338 recommendations, we will then wonder if we need another study, but not until then.
I think we get tired of being studied, and I'm glad that some of the members have brought that up. However, how will the Native people, particularly the grassroots, be involved in the process you outlined previous to some of the questions that have been brought forward?
Mr. Speaker, it is, of course, I think our duty to consult with, and our intention to consult with, the Native leadership. Each of the bands on the reserves have a council. I think we have to consult with these people. The Indian Association of Alberta will be consulted with, and the Métis Association of Alberta, of course, will be consulted with. And I would hope that they would ascertain a way in which they can involve the grassroots of their community so that the input from the grassroots does in fact reach us.
Edmonton Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General reported that the Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation has already lost $187 million because of write-downs, and that there's 300 chip and map mortgages are in arrears and the files are without legal documentation, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. What is the Minister doing to ensure that these developers are being pursued to repay what the owes of the province, or the Albertans are not left with a mess of some $640 million debt?
Mr. Speaker, the government is taking a very responsible stand and with regards to this matter. In November of 1989, we established a process in government by which we would review all of the responsibilities of the Alberta Mortgage and Housing Corporation. And in that process, we have divested ourselves of some $780 million of mortgages and have reduced the encumbrances or the responsibilities of that organization by near $1 billion and returned that money to the Heritage Savings Trust Fund. On the other side of the responsibility is a matter of mortgages in 2 portfolios called the CHIP and MAP portfolio. We have established a body called the Mortgage Properties Incorporated, a special body that is to do workouts and to work towards divesting the government of those mortgages and putting them in proper order in a very responsible manner, Mr. Speaker, and that will be done during the next year. In the initial process, it will take up to 3 to 5 years to complete the process, and it will be done, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these mortgages, unfortunately, are dealt in secret. Was already known as the government's inclination of setting up private companies or public companies that are not accountable to the taxpayers and that the Alberta Mortgage Housing Corporation systems of MAP and CHIP have been the targets of criticism for a number of years now. My question to the Minister is, will the Minister guarantee to make this Assembly aware that make a disclosure of the relevant numbers of the MAP and CHIP mortgages, and that the MPC, the Mortgage Properties Incorporated, won't just be another way of hiding facts and figures from this Assembly?
Mr. Speaker, the responsibility of Mortgage Properties Incorporated is to take its public responsibility and deal with each and every one of these mortgages in an open and forthright manner that stands the test of public scrutiny. The auditor examines each and every one of them, has access to them, and will be reporting on those activities over the next period of time. That report will come to the legislature and will be before this Assembly to be scrutinized as well.
Edmonton Millwoods and Edmonton Whiteman.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister responsible for the Workers' Compensation Board. In the Auditor General's report, he criticized inefficiencies at the WCB, charging, and I quote, "The high rate of successful appeals is to some extent due to incomplete and misunderstood information in claims files and ineffective communications between claimants and adjudicators," unquote. Now, this means not only that a lot of resources are wasted going through the appeal process if they'd been followed properly in the first place, but it also forces injured workers to go through a lot of unnecessary red tape through the appeal process, taking years in some cases and a great deal of frustration just to get what they're rightly entitled to. So I'd like to ask the Minister, when can Alberta workers expect to see the changes that were recommended by the Auditor General so that the pointless waste and delays that are now common in the adjudication and appeal process will be eliminated?
Mr. Speaker, the Millard report has addressed that issue in the last report, which is just a few years old. The Workers' Compensation Board has moved dramatically in that respect, and I might suggest, Mr. Speaker, that in the last, just in the last 2 years since I've taken over the portfolio, I have communicated with over 3,000 injured Albertans in my office, and there isn't any one that we haven't resolved to the satisfaction either of the Workers' Compensation Board or the injured worker. If there's some issue that the honourable member has in respect to a constituent, I would like to hear it, because as I look at what we've offered to the both caucuses, the Liberal caucus and the NDP caucus just recently, my Workers' Compensation Board to sit down with them and go through the policies of WCB, they refuse to sit down with the WCB to understand what it is.
So he's going to ignore the Auditor General's recommendations. Well, that's unfortunate, but Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask a supplementary question, given that the Auditor General also recommended that it's about time the Workers' Compensation Board pay for all the hospitalization costs associated with injured workers and not shuffle some off to the Alberta Health Care Plan. Will this minister now try and deal with that recommendation to ensure that the costs associated with injured workers are entirely paid for by the employers of this province through the WCB and not shuffled off to the individual taxpayers through the health care plan?
Mr. Speaker, again, the honourable member doesn't understand workers' compensation. He doesn't understand it, because the health care bills the WCB for every case of compensation, and in turn workers' compensation pays back the health care system of Alberta for injured workers. So, Mr. Speaker, we're moving very, very quickly with the recommendations of the Auditor General. As a matter of fact, if you read the Auditor General's report, the Auditor commends the WCB on moving on some of the things and says continue to improve. And we intend to improve the respect and the payments to injured workers in the province.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Point of order first, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, according to the minutes of the recent County of Strathcona Council meeting, which I have and I'm prepared to file in the Assembly, a resolution was approved supporting the attendance of the Reeve, Deputy Reeve, and 3 other councillors to an upcoming convention of a political party. This means the registration plus the possibility of a $300 per diem each will be paid for by taxpayers. My question, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, does the Minister find this practice acceptable?
Mr. Speaker, under the Municipal Government Act, the local government has the responsibility of making a decision in terms of allocation of funding for various purposes. If the council of that local government sees fit to sponsor the representation of a group to a certain convention, then they are able to make that decision. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the decision rests there, and the accountability certainly rests with the local government, in this case, the one that is mentioned.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister's office is presently reviewing the Municipal Government Act as it applies to municipal elected representatives. He's made public reference to that. I would ask, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, in his proposed review or his current review of the Municipal Government Act, is the Minister prepared to advocate legislative changes that would stop this type of abuse of taxpayers' dollars?
Hear, hear. Mr. Speaker, I said very clearly to the Alberta Municipal Districts and Counties Convention today that the responsibility for legislation that controls local government certainly rests with the initiative of those local governments. If they, as a group and body, wish to look at this type of an amendment, then as a government we are certainly prepared to look at it as well. But to take that on as a cause at this time, whereby we as a government, or I as a minister, am making a judgment for those local governments, I'm not prepared to do so.
Now a member for Banff Cochrane.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the minister responsible for public safety services in the province of Alberta. Mr. Speaker, the calendar tells us that it's springtime, but Mother Nature seems to have other ideas up in the Rocky Mountains in Banff Cochrane constituency. The last year we saw in the springtime considerable flooding due to snowpack, and accordingly my question to the minister is could he provide this assembly with an update as to the status of the snowpack in the Rocky Mountains?
Speaker, to the honourable member, a number of the constituents and the people that are resident in the area of the Bow Corridor and downstream through Calgary are very concerned with regards to this issue and the potential of a flood if we had 1 week of intense hot weather. The snowpack condition at the present time is near 40% over the average between the years 1972 and 1988, which is a very significant improvement in terms of the water flow that's possible for the Prairie River system. So, Mr. Speaker, in answer to the honourable member, we are concerned about it. We're on watch at the present time in terms of what can happen, but there's both a good story and a bad story involved in that potential watershed area.
Mr. Speaker, given the extent of the snowpack and again, remembering what happened last year, could the Honourable Minister advise what kind of process and procedure he's anticipating to deal with a worst-case scenario where we have the extensive snowpack as well as warm weather and the potential for considerable rainfall in May and June?
Mr. Speaker, the services of our Public Safety and Services branch or the department are on alert at the present time, and all of those services would be made available to the people in the area in terms of flooding, in terms of damages, and we'd be able to move very quickly and act in support of the people and the residents that may have a concern.
Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Last December, the Minister allowed government-owned Alberta Intermodal Services to purchase 155 trailers from Topich Express Lines. Since that time, my colleagues and I have had rather a chorus of complaints from the trucking industry people saying that Alberta Intermodal Services is using its in-house carrier to compete unfairly with other carriers. given that Alberta Intermodal's objective was to reduce rail rates for shipments of intermodal containers for export, why is the minister allowing Alberta Intermodal Services to use its virtual monopoly on the export industry to compete in the trucking industry within Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, I had occasion some time ago, and forgive me in that I cannot recollect the exact date, in which I met with the trucking industry. We had a very good discussion as it related to Alberta Intermodal Services. We indicated to them at that time that it was our position that we were going to privatize it now that it had met its objective of lowering traffic freight for our exporters from the province of Alberta. They've met that objective. We are in the process of privatizing it. There's a couple of loose ends to tie down yet before we submit the actual proposals to the private sector, but the trucking industry was very pleased with the meeting that we did have, and at that time they indicated to me no concern because they were delighted that we were going to privatize this Crown Corporation.
That's true. You've announced that you're going to privatize, but the question was why could they use intermodal services export industry to compete in Alberta's trucking industry? So you didn't really answer the question. However, if Alberta Intermodal Services must be privatized, will this minister promise that when he puts it up for bidding that it will be in an open public tender rather than a sweetheart deal for some government friends?
Mr. Speaker, I realize it's the tradition of the New Democratic Party to play favorites with their friends. We're not going to follow their tradition. We're going to make sure that it is open and available to all of those that are interested. We've had a number of expressions of interest. We're going to make sure that all those individuals who do have an interest will have an opportunity to participate in a very open and free way. I'm more than happy to leave the honourable member with a commitment that I'm sure he would not give himself.
Calgary Northwest. I'm sorry, Calgary Northwest was in the House earlier in the day before the other one. Calgary Northwest is recognized. Thank you very much. I'm glad to have another one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on March the 22nd, I posed a question also to the Minister for Economic Development and Trade regarding Northern Steel. And the Minister responded that the reason for the government involvement in this particular industry was to protect jobs and, quote, to continue with the strong economic growth. Well, Mr. Speaker, I would argue that this is not strong economic growth. This is government growth in private business, which is a place where government does not belong. My question to the Minister is this. How can the Minister justify involvement by government in this business when industry experts inform me that all jobs lost by the closure of Northern Steel would in fact be picked up and the business picked up, resulting in no net loss of jobs and no net loss of business? Why would you get involved?
Well, firstly, Mr. Speaker, I had occasion to meet with the same individuals, and they could not leave me with that same assurance. If the honourable member would be willing to have that assurance put in writing, then we would give full consideration to it. Because as I indicated to him, we are very concerned with job creation within the province of Alberta, and if one examines the record, since 1986 there has been an increase of job creation within this province in excess of 90,000. And that's because of our involvement. We recognized there was a downturn in the economy, and we involved ourselves to protect the employment possibilities of individual Albertans.
Mr. Speaker, given that the government has owned Northern Steel for almost 2 years, despite not having told Albertans about it, and no one has come forward to purchase the company in those 2 years that the government has owned it, will the minister assure the House that no more loans or loan guarantees are going to be given to this company, which has already been loaned 5 times the amount of money than the company is worth?
Mr. Speaker, firstly, I should indicate to the honourable member that his figures are incorrect, both as to what he's sharing with us today and also as to what he shared with us the other day. But I'm happy to leave the honourable member with the assurance that no ad hoc loans or loan guarantees will be given to Northern Steel. But in the event that they can apply for one of our programs that are applicable to all companies, we're not about to disqualify Northern Steel from participation in a program that some other company could also participate in. And that's exactly what they did do through our export loan guarantee program. let me also leave the honourable member with the assurance, as I did when he put questions to me the other day. It is our desire, and I feel quite confident that we can accomplish this desire, whereby we will see this company by year's end in the hands of the private sector. Not for $1, like he's attempting to say. We're going to make sure that as best we can, we recoup whatever government involvement there is, so that again, the private sector will take over this company, and we as a government will see that our backstopping is removed from it.
Might we revert to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 70 grade 6 students from the Dr. Bernard Brosso School in Bonneville, Alberta. They're accompanied today by 4 teachers, Mrs. Pierrette Plume, Mrs. Carolyn Jolly, Miss Val Pollock, Mrs. Jacqueline Gozak, 4 parents, Christine Roy, Florette Hamel, Elaine Hogg, and Mrs. Poirier. I believe they're all seated in the public gallery, and I'd ask that they stand and receive the welcome of the Assembly.
Point of order, Westlock Sturgeon.
Mr. Speaker, it's under Section 22 of the standing orders. It might be more of a point of information, Mr. Speaker, but you have only point of order. But the member for Slave Lake referred to having the only one with native blood. Well, there's a number of us, I think, in all sides of the House, certainly my side, that have native blood also. And because we have blue eyes doesn't mean that we haven't disqualified just as closely as some others do about it. And I'm getting to resent it after a while. I'll admit my ancestors married in with Irish and Scots, Mr. Speaker, but they drew the line at the English, but there's still no way that why we shouldn't be mentioned occasionally in the House.
Thank you for the information, but obviously not a point of order. Thank you. Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I refer to Beauchene 417, Section 417, in which it states answers to questions should be as brief as possible, deal with the matter raised, and should not provoke debate. Mr. Speaker, I point out to the minister responsible for the workers' compensation in his attempt to mislead the House, in which he said that neither caucus on this side chose...
Honourable member, we've been through this many times before. You've been here long enough, honourable member, that in question period there's some latitude allowed with respect to saying the government in a generic sense misleads. But the moment that an honourable member makes a statement which the member for Edmonton Whitemud has just made, it then becomes a much more serious issue, because you, sir, have directed it on an individual basis, not to the government as a whole. So I would request that you withdraw what you have just stated and put it in a different way.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll withdraw that portion, but I would still like to speak on the point of order. And the point of order being...
Honourable member, the answer is yes to continue. And thank you for it having done the withdrawal, and now the chair allows you to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To follow up on my point of order, I point out that in the reply of the honourable member to the question raised from the member of Edmonton Millwoods, it was pointed out that neither party, neither caucus on this side had chosen to participate in an opportunity to learn more about the management and policies of workers' compensation. I must remind the minister, through you, Mr. Speaker, that it was his office that contacted myself, and that was arranged, and we had a very, very enlightened hour and 15 minutes of discussion. It was very informative. In addition to that, on 2 other occasions, this member and other members of our caucus attended the rehab center and again participated in the discussions that revolved policy. So I would ask Mr. Speaker that that reference be withdrawn, in that it does not reflect the facts.
Minister, briefly to the second issue. The first issue of the point of order is dealing with briefness of answers. This is a long way from being that.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to be corrected, and I welcome that
My office contacted the honorable member last year, and he advised our office that he didn't think the whole caucus would be interested. I did not know, and I do not know till today, that they took advantage of that. And has he taken advantage of it? I applaud the Liberal caucus. I understand the NDP caucus still haven't accepted, and invite them. You have? Oh, good. Well, they've both done it, Mr. Speaker. I was wrong in suggesting they didn't take it. I'm glad they did, and I'd like to see them come back again and do it again.
Well, again, thank you, honorable members, for the interesting discussion. I'm sure the whole province of Alberta is deeply interested in it. With regard to the point of order, the member for Edmonton-Whitemud was quoting Beauchesne 417 about brief answers. That's greatly to be commended, and again, I've been keeping track, and I'm quite certain that we'll have briefer answers, and we're going to have a lot briefer supplementaries in particular from all members of the House, because in the last few days we've not been getting quite as many people into question period, and that's unfortunate for the role of those who are in the upper, middle, and back benches. So this again has been dealt with. And now, Calgary Buffalo, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a point of order, understanding Order 13, subsection 2, relating to the failure of the Speaker to recognize myself in question period prior to Calgary Northwest. The procedure which has been followed in this House during the past year or so is that the caucus forwards a list of speakers and the questioners in the order of questioning to the Speaker. And to my knowledge, this is the order that the Speaker invariably follows in calling upon members of those caucuses. We now see today an exception to that rule on a basis which I would like to raise as a point of order, Mr. Speaker, and that exception is set out in a letter, a note of yourself to a member of our caucus,